Wake up, wrestling world. It's your boy Tommy on the spot for Watchalong Wrestling, and welcome to the very first edition of Wake Up with Watchalong Wrestling, a daily, because, I'll be honest, there's probably going to be 1 or 2 days where, due to my work schedule, I probably can't jump on here with you guys early in the morning. But a daily, and most of the time live. I know this one's not live, but most of the time this will also be a live kind of wrestling hotline to get you guys up to speed and set on the biggest breaking wrestling news, maybe a recap of a show from the night before, maybe get you set for a show later on that day in the world of pro wrestling. And we're going to cover everything from WWE to AEW to New Japan Pro Wrestling. It is going to be awesome, and it won't be very long, probably be no more than 10 to 15 minutes each day, no longer than 30 on a crazy news day or a crazy if there's a topic that requires a lot of attention. So I'm really excited about this. It gives me an opportunity to talk with you guys about the biggest stories in the world of pro wrestling. And hopefully you guys will get a kick out of this and be able to communicate as well. When we do go live, you'll be able to jump on. And of course, it will be very early in the morning here in the United States, at least. So if you are in the US, I probably will get on here probably around 6 a.m., 6:30 Eastern time. So 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m. West Coast time. But hey, it is what it is. And then if you can't do it, though, if you can't jump on, obviously not everyone can, you'll be able to listen to this kind of on your morning commute, or maybe even in the end of the day before said big event, or right after that news piece breaks, rather. So you'll be able to leave your comments and your replies in the comment section below, and we'll be able to go back and forth on that. So I'm excited about this. I think this should be a lot of fun. And today, I think it's important that we start with today. It's obviously July 1st, so crazy to think we're already entering the second half of 2019. But one of the things that I'm excited about is kind of a new era that begins for WWE tonight. It was announced, I think it was 3 days ago, that WWE has hired new executive directors for both Raw and SmackDown Live. And if you don't know yet, then, hey, you probably don't follow wrestling very much, because it's been a pretty big story. The new executive director of Monday Night Raw is Paul Heyman, and the new executive director of Monday Night Raw is Eric Bischoff, who obviously these guys at one time oversaw ECW and WCW respectively, and now they're back in the graces of WWE. This is a big deal, and it would be a big deal regardless of who they signed as the new executive directors. It seems like definitely both Raw and SmackDown, WWE in general, could utilize a little bit of a kind of a kick in the ass, if you will, creatively. And so having these guys there as executive directors, overseeing creative of each one of the brands is exciting. I will say we have to proceed a little bit with caution. My buddy Steve, who you guys know from my Disney show, who's not the biggest wrestling fan, if you go back and check out my vlog from NXT TakeOver 25, that was his first wrestling show he had seen in 10 years. When I first told him about this, he was excited, and the first thing he said, though, was, but are they still reporting to Vince McMahon? And yes, they are. They'll be overseeing Raw, they'll be overseeing SmackDown, but they are reporting to Vince McMahon. So it is interesting to see kind of how this goes, because obviously in the past, Paul Heyman and Vince McMahon have not always seen eye to eye. It's been well documented that Paul Heyman kind of oversaw creative on the SmackDown side of things in 2002 and was really acting like this was an internal Raw between the brands. Internal war between the Raw and the SmackDown brand, as Paul Heyman really did a lot to revitalize SmackDown there. That's where he focused a lot. The world title on Brock Lesnar and The Big Show, who are two of his closest friends. He had really pushed Taz and Michael Cole to get their spotlight and to get the main events calls during SmackDown main events during pay-per-views, and obviously really focused on a lot of the in-ring action. That's during the SmackDown 6 era with Eddie Guerrero, Chavo Guerrero, Edge, Rey Mysterio, Chris Benoit, and Kurt Angle, and having those guys go from kind of the mid-card or upper mid-card to, perennial main eventers, and having the best matches on the shows that really made SmackDown can't miss in 2002. Then fast forward to 2006, when the ECW brand is relaunched. Paul Heyman and Vince McMahon obviously do not get along very long. That marriage does not last very long. As Paul Heyman is shown the door quickly. And that was after he had been kind of brought back into the fold creatively after being ousted in 2002 for supposedly listening in on a creative call for the Raw side of things that he was not invited to. So he's kind of doing this, was kind of doing this a little bit, kind of doing this on the low, and it was not something that they appreciated. He was kind of being sneaky about it. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. It's also interesting to see how Eric Bischoff fits into things in WWE, because even though he was brought back in 2002 on the WWE television as an on-screen character, he had never had a say in how things went creatively at all for WWE programming. So that's a first for that. And obviously the last time that he was overseeing creative would be in a capacity for TNA back in 2010, kind of when Hulk Hogan first came over and when they inexplicably went head-to-head with Raw on Monday nights. That did not last very long. But the criticism for him there was he was going back to so many old WWE guys, and it was basically anybody who had a WWE name. The likes of Val Venus when he was probably past his prime, the Nasty Boys when they were like 10 years past their prime, the Orlando Jordan. It was too much, and it didn't really work. So it'll be interesting to see. I feel like these guys can really lend a lot, though, if they're given that creative freedom. I think Vince needs to give them a year. Give them 1 year, let them see what they can do, make them know they at least have 1 year. And sure, he could be there to kind of rein things in if Eric Bischoff starts going back to the well too often with some of the older names, or maybe Paul Heyman's going completely off the rails, or maybe wants to get things too extreme where they can't really do stuff like that due to their sponsors. So it'll be interesting to see. Kind of in looking ahead to tonight, American Airlines Arena in Texas, Paul Heyman is actually being advertised for the show, and that is something that I'm a little like, excuse me, a little leery of. Heyman and Bischoff are both being locally advertised for the shows, that they're going to be on the shows. I think it even shows like the roster behind them with them kind of front and center of each brand. And the tagline says, what does Paul Heyman have in store for Raw? What does Eric Bischoff have in store for SmackDown? I personally don't have any problem with this. I have no issue with them being on-screen characters. Honestly, in order to hear that kind of I'm back, that great Eric Bischoff theme that I just love, I will tune into SmackDown. I will see that live. I'll be excited about it. But one thing I don't want is for them to be characters. From a standpoint of, I don't want them to be an evil general manager. I don't want Paul Heyman to show up tonight and now he's really getting at Seth Rollins. And he's like, hey, Rollins, we've been at each other's heads neck and neck for the last couple of years, or certainly for this year in 2019, and Brock Lesnar has Money in the Bank, and I'm there with Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar is going to show up and he's going to cash in. I don't want that. That to me is like, that takes away from them being in these roles. What I want tonight is I want Paul Heyman to show up. I want him to bring out the Raw roster. I want him to go around the ring, and I want him to do what Paul Heyman does best, build up each one of the talents. Think of a guy like 911 back in ECW, a guy who was very limited in the ring, but Paul played to his strengths and made it seem like his chokeslam was top-notch, over-the-top, great stuff, and that you had to see. That was must-see TV. I want Paul Heyman to walk around the ring and maybe go to each person and talk to No Way Jose and say, this is a guy who exemplifies fun in World Wrestling Entertainment. You want him to go to the B team, and I know they're on SmackDown, but talk about, you guys are second-generation superstars, and you guys should not be the B team. You should not be considered a joke, and go around and make everybody excited about Raw moving forward, and do so by really, putting that spotlight and that emphasis on each one of the talents like only Paul Heyman can do. So I'm hoping tonight's not he walks out there and awards Baron Corbin a title match tonight on Raw, and it's much more the same. This needs to be a kick in the ass. I'm excited to see where it goes, but it's got to be a kick in the ass. So that's going to do it for this first one. I told you guys it would be short, right? So let me know, are you excited for Raw tonight? Do you think this is going to be great? How are you feeling about the Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff hires? Let me know in the comment section below, and then we'll be back hopefully tomorrow or a little later today here on Watchalong Wrestling with more great content. Till next time, everybody, I am Tommy on the Spot. Have a great Monday. Let's kick ass this week, shall we?